If you're not rich yet, it's not because you're not hardworking. It's because you've been surviving inside a system that was never designed to make you wealthy. But I got out of the cycle, and not because I worked harder. It's because I finally realized the system is rigged to keep you exactly where you are. This isn't about hustling. It's about seeing the traps you've walked into and finally stepping out of them. And once you do, you won't see money the same way again. But first, you need to unlearn the one belief that's kept you broke from the start. The lie you were raised to believe you were taught, that if you just worked hard, stayed out of trouble, and followed the rules, everything would eventually work out. That wealth would somehow show up if you just kept your head down long enough. That patience was the key, and success was a slow reward for good behavior. But here you are, older, smarter, working more hours than ever, and still nowhere close to real financial freedom. And deep down, part of you feels like you've done something wrong. Here's the truth. You haven't failed. You were lied to. You were raised in a system that teaches obedience over ownership. A system where the smartest people aren't the richest, just the most leveraged. A system that rewards those who play the game differently, while everyone else is told to just try harder. It starts early. You're taught how to memorize, not how to think. You're taught how to follow directions, not how to design your own path. You're trained to trade your time for a paycheck, but never shown how to own anything. This is how the cycle begins. You spend your best energy earning money. Then you spend that money to recover from the stress of earning it. You repeat the loop month after month, year after year, without even realizing that you're stuck inside a financial treadmill. And the people who benefit from that, they'll never tell you to get off. They want you just motivated enough to keep working, just tired enough to keep spending, and just distracted enough to never question the entire setup. Because if you ever stop and ask, if hard work alone leads to wealth, why are the hardest working people I know still broke? It all starts to unravel. You realize that the system isn't broken. It's built this way. And the moment you really see it, you start to understand the game isn't about how hard you work. It's about whether you're working on the right things. It's not effort that builds wealth. It's leverage of time, attention, assets, and ideas. And until you shift from effort to leverage, you'll just keep running faster inside the same cage. But this was just the beginning, because even after you see the truth, there's something else quietly draining your future every single day without you noticing. The silent killers of your wealth. While you're busy grinding and doing everything right, there are silent killers operating in the background, stealing your wealth before you even get a chance to build it. And the first one is this: you're stuck in reaction mode. You wake up and your attention already belongs to someone else. Your phone buzzes, the inbox fills, messages start pouring in. Before you've even brushed your teeth, your mind has been hijacked. You spend your day responding instead of creating, fixing problems that aren't yours, putting out fires that didn't exist yesterday. And the worst part, it feels productive. But at the end of the day, nothing important moved forward. Time doesn't vanish in one big chunk. It leaks away in fragments. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, until the day disappears and your dreams are still on pause. But there's something even worse than reacting, and that's consumer thinking. You've been conditioned to spend not just your money, but your time, your energy, even your identity. You scroll, you shop, you upgrade, you react to ads that are smarter than your willpower, and every decision you make is influenced by what someone else wants you to want. That's the trap. Every dollar you spend on things that don't grow is a dollar you've stolen from your future. You stay busy consuming what others created while building nothing of your own, and this didn't happen by accident. The world needs you to be the customer, not the creator. That's how it stays in control. But the third silent killer, it's the most dangerous of all: scarcity identity. It doesn't come from your bank account. It comes from what you believe about yourself. It whispers that you're too late, that you're not ready, that rich people are different, and you missed your shot. So instead of building something that could grow over time, you hesitate, you overthink, you wait for permission. You say, it'll start when things calm down. It'll invest once I'm more stable. It'll create when I know more. But here's the truth. That voice isn't caution, it's fear in disguise. And it has cost you years of progress, because the real threat to your future isn't failure, it's delay dressed up as logic. And that delay, it was installed in you by people who were stuck. 2 parents, teachers, bosses, people who meant well, but never escaped. These killers don't show up in red flashing lights. They show up quietly, invisibly, silently, day after day. And by the time you notice them, you've already lost 5 years. But the people who became wealthy, they noticed the pattern early, and they stopped playing defense. They didn't just think differently, they built differently. Because the rich don't just avoid these traps, they're playing a completely different game. Most people never even realize exists, how the rich think, and why you've been blind to it. Most people are taught to work hard, follow instructions, and keep their heads down, get good grades, get a stable job, save for retirement. That's how I started too. But it didn't take long to realize if you want to do something extraordinary, you can't just follow the system. You have to question everything about it. When I wanted to send rockets into space, I was quoted $65 million per launch. Most people would have stopped right there. They would have said, well, that's the cost. But I didn't ask how to afford a rocket. I asked why it costs that much in the first place. So I broke it down. The materials aluminum, titanium, carbon fiber weren't the problem. When you added up the raw inputs, it was only about 2% of that price. That's when it hit my rockets weren't actually expensive. We were just building them in the most expensive way possible. And if the cost wasn't real, then maybe the rules weren't either. That realization changed everything. It's what gave birth to SpaceX. Because once I saw through the illusion, I didn't want to improve the system. I wanted to replace it. That's how the rich think. We don't accept things at face value. We break problems down to their core. We remove the noise, strip away the assumptions, and build from truth upward. Meanwhile, most people are taught to play by rules that were never designed for their freedom. They're told to trade their time for money and then spend that money on things that keep them tired and distracted. They work harder each year, but freedom never shows up because wealth isn't about working harder. It's about working on things that scale. It's about leverage. It's about ownership. It's about building systems that keep going even when you're not looking. You've probably been praised for being a hard worker. You might even take pride in it. But if your income stops the moment you stop working, that's not wealth. That's a trap. Rich don't rent their time. We own assets that grow. Whether it's a business, an idea, a piece of code, a digital product, something that multiplies without constant supervision. And this isn't something I was born knowing. I learned it by thinking from first principles, by stripping away what everyone else assumed to be true and asking, does this actually make sense? The problem is, most people never slow down enough to think that way. They're too busy reacting, too busy surviving, too busy chasing things that don't compound. But if you take even a fraction of your day and use it to question your assumptions, you'll start seeing opportunities where others see dead ends. That's where the shift happens. You stop being the worker inside someone else's machine and you start becoming the person who builds the machine. This isn't about working more hours. It's about thinking in a way most people never will. And once you do, the results won't look like magic, but they'll feel like it. Now you might be wondering, where do I even begin? How do I start thinking like this if my whole life has trained me not to? You start small, you start deliberate, you start with one habit, 1 hour, every single day. And that's what we're going to talk about next. Your hour of power, the first habit that builds wealth. If you want to change your life, you don't need to overhaul everything overnight. You just need 1 hour. That's how I rebuilt my clarity after everything almost fell apart. When rockets exploded, when Tesla was bleeding money, when I was sleeping on the floor of the factory. There was one thing I started doing that changed the trajectory. I carved out one focused hour every single morning before the noise, before the emails, before the fires, an hour where I could think, not react, not check Slack, not put out someone else's emergency. Just think about the real problems that mattered. No distractions, no phone, just me, a notebook, and the question, what is the one problem I need to solve today? That hour became my edge, because when you protect your attention, you protect your power. And when you stop living in other people's agendas, you start designing your own. Most people never do this. They wake up, grab their phone, and by the time they even try to focus, their mind is already gone. They lost their day before it began. And that's the danger. You don't lose your life all at once. You lose it in one distracted hour at a time. But here's the secret. You can take it back. Start by choosing one. Hour a day, same time, same place, no interruptions. Make it your lab, your war room, your idea factory. Use it to write, to build, to map out the things you've been avoiding. Use it to think deeply about leverage, direction, and long-term moves. Even if it feels small at first, stay with it because it stacks. That 1 hour will start doing what 12 distracted hours never could. It will move you forward. And over time, that single protected hour becomes a multiplier. It trains your mind to aim, not just react, to lead, not follow, to act on first principles, not copy what's trending. I didn't build rockets in a day, but I made space for the kind of thinking that could. So if you're serious about getting rich, about building something that matters, then just add more hustle to your day. Protect the hour that actually creates leverage, because that hour, it will do more for your future than any overtime shift ever will. And once you have it locked in, There's one more trap you have to watch out for, the one that shows up right after you start winning. The trap that keeps people poor even when they start winning. Most people think the struggle ends once they start making money. They believe the hard part is over, that the fear, the stress, the uncertainty will fade once they see a few commas in their account. But that's actually where the next trap begins. The first stage of the game is survival. You're hustling to pay bills, escape debt, breathe again. Every hour is driven by desperation. You move because you have to. But once things begin to stabilize, once the pressure lets up just a little, something dangerous creeps in. Comfort. And comfort is deceptive. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It tells you that you've earned a break, that you don't need to push so hard anymore, that you're doing well compared to others. Slowly, without even realizing it, your hunger starts to fade. The fire that got you out of survival, it begins to dim. You stop reaching, you stop questioning, you stop doing the exact things that got you ahead in the first place. That's what almost happened to me. When Tesla finally started gaining traction after years of pressure, ridicule, and near bankruptcy, I thought I'd finally feel at peace. But instead, I caught myself slipping. I started reacting again. I let meetings and surface level decisions eat my mornings. I spent more time putting out fires than building new engines. It was quiet drift. It looked like progress, but it wasn't. And if I hadn't caught it, I would have slowed everything down. That's the trap. When progress gives you just enough success to get comfortable, but not enough momentum to create real, lasting wealth, you start defending what you've built instead of building what's next. You start playing not to lose instead of playing to win. And that's when your edge disappears. You stop taking risks. You say yes to mediocrity. You keep busy, but not brave. You look successful on the outside, but deep down, you know you're coasting. It's dangerous because you're no longer desperate. And without desperation, many people lose direction. This trap takes out more high potential people than failure ever could. Founders, artists, athletes, creators. Anyone who forgets that momentum doesn't last unless you protect it. The truth is, wealth isn't something you build once. It's something you keep building over and over again. And if you don't keep stretching, you start shrinking. That's why I made a rule. A simple one. Never let comfort replace clarity, because comfort will lie to you. It will tell you you're safe when you're actually stuck. If your days feel easy, question them. If you're no longer scared, push deeper. If you're no longer growing, you're already falling behind. The people who stay rich don't crave comfort, they crave growth. That doesn't mean living in chaos. It means staying sharp. It means protecting the edge. The rich don't coast, they evolve. And if you're already on the rise, now is the most dangerous time to slow down, because the next trap isn't just comfort, it's regret. The kind that shows up years later when you realize the window didn't slam shut all at once. It quietly closed while you were telling yourself, I'll get to it eventually. So if you've wasted time, if you feel like you should be further ahead, you're not alone, and you're not out of time, but you're closer to the edge than you think. Now is when you decide whether you let the momentum slip away or you multiply it. And in the next chapter, you'll see exactly how to do that. Because what we're about to cover isn't theory, it's the system I used to break out of the drift and reclaim momentum when it almost cost me everything. The illusion of progress. Why most people stay stuck. One of the most dangerous places you can be is doing just well enough. Not failing, not thriving, just floating somewhere in between. You've got a job, you're paying your bills, you're not panicking at the end of the month. You might even have a little savings, a decent routine, the occasional praise from your boss, or a few likes on what you post. And because things aren't falling apart, you start telling yourself maybe this is what progress looks like. But deep down, you know better. You're not building anything that compounds. You're maintaining, you're surviving, you're moving, but not forward. You're solving the same problems each month, spinning the same wheels, answering the same emails, dealing with the same frustrations. You've been stuck in a cycle. Work, recover, repeat. And maybe without realizing it, you've been stuck there for years. That's not ambition, that's autopilot. And here's the scary part. Most people live their entire lives in that state. They stay just busy enough to feel productive, just praised enough to feel successful, and just distracted enough to never break free. It's not rock bottom that kills potential. It's the slow drip of comfort disguised as progress. It's being rewarded for tasks instead of results. It's checking boxes instead of changing direction. And the system, it's perfectly designed to keep you right there. It gives you just enough dopamine to stay distracted, just enough status to feel seen, just enough security to keep you docile. It teaches you to chase promotions instead of purpose, to aim for success by someone else's definition, and then it applauds you for doing what everyone else is doing without ever asking if that's what you should be doing. I've seen brilliant people lose entire decades like this. They had potential, they had fire, they had dreams that could have changed industries, but they traded those dreams for stability. They accepted being just fine, and they died with their best work still inside them because they confused activity with achievement, busyness with growth, movement with direction. But here's the truth. If everything you do stops the moment you stop doing it, you haven't built progress. You've just built dependence. You're not moving forward. You're running in place. And if that's where you are right now, I say this with urgency, not judgment. You don't need another productivity hack. You don't need a better morning routine. You don't need a longer to-do list. You need a decision, a clear, ruthless decision to stop settling for motion without meaning. Because real progress doesn't always feel busy. It feels clear. It feels uncomfortable. It feels like walking away from things that no longer serve you, even if they look good on paper. It feels like cutting the safety net, saying no to the meetings that don't matter, deleting the goals that were never yours to begin with, and creating space for something that actually scales something that sets you free. That's not easy, especially when the world keeps telling you to be grateful, to stay in line, to not want too much. But if you've been feeling stuck, this is the sign you've been waiting for. Ask yourself, are you actually building a future or just staying too distracted to notice that you're stuck? Because the next chapter of your life only opens when you do something radical, when you break the cycle that's been dressed up as success. And the hardest part, it means letting go of the one thing you've been trained to hold on to your entire life. Burn the backup plan. Why safety is slowing you down. There's a quiet voice in your head that keeps saying, play it safe. And for most of your life, you've listened. You've kept a backup plan, a just-in-case job, a fallback option, something to catch you if things go wrong. And on the surface, that seems smart, responsible, mature. But here's what no one tells you, your backup plan. It might be the reason you're still stuck. Because when you have something soft to land on, you never fully leap. You hesitate, you hedge, you keep one foot in, one foot out. And no one builds greatness like that. You say you want to build wealth, but you're still holding on to the very life you say you want to escape. You're still clinging to the habits, the job, the identity that feels safe because the idea of failing without a plan B terrifies you. But every breakthrough I've had came after I burned the bridge behind me. When I sold everything to start SpaceX, when I poured my last resources into Tesla, when I had nothing left to fall back on but the mission itself. Was it risky? Yes. But it forced absolute clarity because when you have no plan B, you stop negotiating with fear, you stop delaying, you start doing what it takes. And you know what happens next? You rise, you adapt, you build faster. Survival sharpens your focus, urgency forces creativity, and full commitment unlocks levels of you that comfort never could. The truth is, your backup plan might be the very thing blocking your breakout because it convinces you to stay small, stay safe, stay stuck. So ask yourself, are you protecting your future or protecting your fear? You'll never build something big if your first instinct is to cushion the fall. You have to trust the leap. You have to burn the backup plan, not because it's reckless, but because it forces you to show up like there's no other choice. That's when you start to move differently, think differently, win differently, because now it's real. And if you've been waiting for the perfect moment to go all in, it's not coming. You create the moment by deciding right now. And when you do, you'll feel it, not fear, not doubt, but a fire that says, this is mine to build or mine to lose, but I'm not turning back. And that fire is exactly what you'll need for what comes next. It's not too late, but you're running out of time. If you're not where you want to be, you've probably wondered if you missed your shot. You look around and think, I should be further ahead by now. Maybe you wasted years in the wrong job, the wrong habits, the wrong mindset. And now you're wondering if it's too late to turn things around. It's not, but you need to hear this. Time doesn't wait for you to feel ready, and every day you delay someone else moves faster. That's not to scare you. It's to wake you up because the lie is thinking you have forever. You don't get unlimited tries. You don't get to drift for 5 more years and expect life to be waiting for you. Opportunities expire, energy fades, doors close. But here's the good news. Right now you still have a window, and that window is bigger than you think. You've got knowledge now, experience, hunger. You're not starting from zero, you're starting from awareness. That makes you dangerous if you act. I've seen people go from nothing to everything in just a few years, not because they got lucky, but because they finally got serious. They stopped making excuses. They cut out distractions. They made uncomfortable decisions that paid off later. And most importantly, they stopped asking if it was too late and started behaving like it wasn't. You've got more time than you think, but far less than you've been acting like. So use what's left wisely. Don't overthink. Don't wait for permission. Build something that compounds your skills, your assets, your impact. Because 5 years from now, one of 2 things will be true. Either you'll wish you started today or you'll thank yourself that you did. This is the moment, and it may not come again. The window is closing, but it hasn't closed yet. You've seen how the wealthy think. You've seen what they protect: focus, time, leverage. You've seen how they question everything the world told them to accept. You've learned about the silent killers that keep people poor: reaction, distraction, consumer thinking. You've learned how to fight back, starting with just one protected hour a day. You've seen how comfort becomes a trap, how fake progress keeps you spinning, how safety slows you down. And now, here you are, standing at the edge of a decision that will define the next 5 years of your life. You don't need $1 million idea right now. You don't need a perfect plan. What you need is direction. You need consistency. And more than anything, you need urgency. Because here's the part no one tells you: the future doesn't wait. Wealth is not built someday. It's built now by people who are willing to act while everyone else overthinks. The people who make it aren't always the smartest. They're not always the most talented, but they move. They start, they commit while others hesitate. And over time, that edge becomes impossible to ignore. You don't need to be a genius. You don't need permission. You just need to stop waiting for signs and start becoming the person who builds them. Protect your time like it's gold, because it is. Guard your focus like your future depends on it, because it does. Invest your energy like it matters, because it's the one currency you can't earn back. Think bigger, move faster, start smaller. You don't need to do everything. You just need to do the right thing repeatedly. This isn't about money. It never was. It's about freedom. It's about control. It's about designing a life that doesn't drain you. One where you wake up excited, not exhausted. One where your time belongs to you. Because 5 years from now, something is going to happen. You'll either be in the same place you are now, making the same excuses, fighting the same fears, or you'll look back and realize this was the moment that changed everything. This was the shift, the spark, the line in the sand. And it won't be because you waited. It'll be because you moved. This is your wake-up call. If you're not rich yet, don't wait for another sign. Don't wait for more pain, more proof, more time. This was it.